Welcome to Daily Red Devil. Lots and lots to discuss on the show this morning. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner, live every day throughout the transfer window. And also smash a like on this video. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. Right, let's get straight on into it then. No messing around. And the question I've got for you today is this. Do you want Manchester United to sign Victor Osimhen this January? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I will get a poll live for the live audience, but obviously if you're watching this back on repeat, you have to get in the comment section, so go and do that now. So the poll will be simple. Should United sign Osimhen? Simple question, yes or no? Let me know your thoughts. So let's start the show off by talking about that. So there's more reports coming out this morning. This is coming out from Nigerian media, and there's also some quotes from Victor Osimhen's agent, who is saying that Victor Osimhen will leave Napoli. Obviously, he plays for Napoli at the moment. And the story goes on to say that Manchester United are now internally exploring the idea to sign Victor Osimhen this month. United are currently trying to agree a deal with Napoli for a discount on his current £62 million release clause. It says United are serious about Osimhen and are ready to sacrifice Joshua Zirkzee in order to sign him. Now, how does everybody feel about that? Would you be happy if Joshua Zirkzee left the club in January and we brought in Victor Osimhen as a replacement? Now, for me personally, I would be quite happy with this. I think if you were able to get Marcus Rashford and Joshua Zirkzee off the books and then able to bring in Victor Osimhen, I think that would be an improvement. If we were able to recoup the money we spent on Zirkzee, I know it's very soon into his career. You know, he's only been here, 5 months? Maybe not even that. But if we were able to get back the £38 million we gave Bologna for him, and then say we get 30 million for Rashford, that would cover the Victor Osimhen deal. So I can see where the money would come from. And we'll talk about Joshua Zirkzee a little bit later on in the show. But the general gist of it is this, that Napoli want Marcus Rashford and Juventus want Joshua Zirkzee. So there is, genuine interest in both of these two players. Both have a resale value. We wouldn't lose money on Zirkzee, I don't think. We paid, I think it was 38 million for him in the summer. His market value at the time was slightly more than that, so we did get him slightly under market value. So I don't think we'd, sell Zirkzee for less than what we paid for him, which was 38 million. I think we'd easily get that from one of the Italian sides. We knew in the summer that lots of Italian sides were trying to sign Joshua Zirkzee. We know that AC Milan wanted him. We know that Juventus were interested in him. So there's definitely interest from the Serie A teams for Joshua Zirkzee. But circling back to Victor Osimhen, £62 million seems like a lot of money for a release clause. But then at the same time, when you think that we paid, I think it was it 72 million for Højlund, who was a completely unproven striker at the time, realistically. I think it's a good deal, 62 million for Osimhen. I think it's a fair price. I don't really have a massive issue with it. I'm just checking my facts there. Yeah, we paid 74 million euros for Joshua Zirkzee, which if you convert to pounds, that's about the same, 62 million pounds. So we paid 62 million for Højlund and we can get Osimhen for 62 million. I think it's a decent price when you look at the other players that are available across Europe at the moment and you look at other top strikers and you see like what they went for in recent years. For example, Kolo Muani went to PSG last summer, I think it was, and PSG paid 95 million euros for Kolo Muani. I know PSG always overpay for players, but still, that's absolutely mad, isn't it? Look at Gonzalo Ramos as another example, another striker. He went to PSG back in January last year, exactly the same time as now, and they paid about £62 million for him. So, 62 million for me seems like a reasonable price. I don't think you're going to get anyone better for that level of money. Some people will say, what about Benjamin Sesko? Benjamin Sesko is going to cost you in excess of 60 million, 100%. If you wanted Gyökeres, his release clause at Sporting Lisbon is absolutely massive. So you're not going to get him for any less. His release clause at Sporting Lisbon at the moment is around 100 million euros. But apparently he does have a release clause in the summer of 63 million pounds, which is about 75 million euros. So there are options out there in the summer, but at the moment, the most likely option is this Victor Osimhen deal. Will Victor Osimhen want to come to Manchester United? That's the big question. I mean, I would imagine he would. Let's be clear, like playing for Manchester United is a much bigger, it's much bigger than playing for Galatasaray. I know they're a big club in Turkey, but yeah, it's not the same, is it? So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Like, is Victor Osimhen the answer? Would he be is he going to be the saviour for Manchester United? I would like that, but we'll see. Let's move on to Joshua Zirkzee then, shall we? And I'll bring you guys the news that's just come out today on Joshua Zirkzee potentially signing, should I say, for Juventus. So the headline this morning is that apparently Joshua Zirkzee wants to leave Manchester United, as Juventus have apparently agreed personal terms with the player. Another story says that Zirkzee's agent is working on a deal with Juventus for a permanent exit. Another story coming out saying the Serie A giants are closing in on a deal for Manchester United star Joshua Zirkzee. And then you've got other people saying that the Man United star has now agreed to join Juventus. They're still obviously going to have to sort out a fee. So even though this deal is moving closer, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Just because a player says yes to joining a club doesn't mean that it will actually happen, because obviously Manchester United have to then agree a fee with Juventus. And if they don't agree a fee, the player won't go. It's as simple as that. So at the moment, Joshua Zirkzee wants to leave. Can you blame him? Not really. I mean, he has had a terrible start to his time at Manchester United, I think. He doesn't suit the Premier League. Obviously, he had that situation against Newcastle where he was substituted after 30 minutes and then the crowd kind of cheered, ironically, which is a horrible thing to happen to anybody. But, it's how does he come back from that? And I just don't see it. I don't see what he's particularly good at. I think the best thing for everybody would be for him to move on. If he stays, obviously I'll support him, I'll back him, and I'll hope that he can turn things around. But at the moment, if there is a genuine interest there from Juventus in a league that he's done well in previously, obviously he played for Bologna in the Serie A, I think it would make a lot of sense. And I think, if we can recoup the money we paid for him and then go and reinvest that in someone like a Victor Osimhen, I think it would be the best for everybody. So yeah, I endorse this. I think it would be good. But at the same time, if Joshua Zirkzee does end up staying at Manchester United, I will obviously back him. I will support him, and I hope that he comes good. But I just don't see it at the moment. But things can change, obviously. Obviously, it would be sad. It would be a bit of a shame, that we bought this player. We were all really excited about him. And, he was literally signed as what we hoped would be like someone who could help Rasmus Højlund in July. Well, we're now August, September, October, November, December. Yeah, it's literally been like 6 months since he signed. He's only played... He's played quite a few minutes, to be fair. He's played 27 games this season. He scored 4 goals and got 2 assists. So what's that? A goal and an assist, like every 7 games? I mean, it's not great, is it? It's not terrible, though. When you think that Jack Grealish hasn't got a goal or an assist in like a year, and they paid 100 million for him, and they're both attacking players. But then if you compare him with Victor Osimhen, Osimhen's got 18 goals and assists in 16 games. So he's averaging a goal or an assist more than every game at the moment, which is obviously, it's a very good return, isn't it? And some people will say, oh, that's in the Turkish league, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's doing it in the Europa League as well. He scored a couple against Tottenham, didn't he, in the Europa League, I think. So, I would be up for Victor Osimhen, but I'd be interested to see what you guys all think as well. Just a quick one. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour, please drop a like on this episode. I'm trying to get 500 likes on today's show, so go and do that now if you haven't already. The more people that like the video, the more that YouTube will show this to other people. So go and do that right now, and let's try and get to 500 likes. And if this is your first time watching today, also go and subscribe as well. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that. We are on the road. Well, we're on the road to 100k. We're still quite a long way away from it, but go and subscribe. Let's see if we can get to 100k, hopefully in the next year or so. So go and do that right now. Okay, let's move on from that. So we've spoke about Osimhen, we've spoke about Joshua Zirkzee. Let's obviously talk a little bit about the Liverpool game today. Supposed to be kicking off at about 4:30 this afternoon. And the headline coming out from, well, this is just widely reported, is that apparently they're going to be holding some sort of meeting at 9 a.m. this morning in Liverpool to decide whether the game will go ahead. I'm just having a little look here. I mean, it's quite hard to predict really at the moment. So that they're going to have this meeting at 9 o'clock, right? There's obviously been loads of snow in Liverpool, well, everywhere in the UK. Where I am in Bristol, there's been loads of snow. I know some people who live in other places in Europe will be like, "Oh, it's nothing compared to where we live." But as soon as there's a bit of snow in England, the infrastructure just completely stops. You know, there's no trains, no one drives anywhere. Like, people, we're just not set up for it. And obviously all of the games happened yesterday, but the snow only started kind of late last night. And it was quite heavy. Like, even here in Bristol, the snow was completely set. It was, it was quite thick. There was people like making snowballs and all the rest of it. But in relation to Liverpool, I've been watching the weather quite carefully, and it snowed all night. I've seen videos and stuff of around the ground, and it does look pretty icy. Obviously, the actual stadium itself would be fine because all of the top grounds in and around Europe, and well, in the Premier League, the Championship, they all have like heating systems underneath the grass. So if there's ice or whatever, it will melt the ice off. So it's not really so much of a concern that the pitch would be unplayable. It's the biggest issue, I think, is whether people can get to the ground safely and whether they want to encourage travel. Because if you think about it, right, a football game isn't essential. It's not like you going to hospital for treatment or for something that's life-threatening. A football game isn't essential. It's effectively a leisure. It's a fun activity. And effectively the decision will be, can they justify making a game go ahead, which will mean over 60,000 people having to travel to Anfield on the trains, on the motorways, in cars, whatever, That's the question that they'll be asking themselves. And if they decide that the travel routes are fine and it's safe and no problem, then obviously the game will go ahead. As it stands at the moment, it looks like the weather in Liverpool is now started to rain, so the ice and the snow will start to melt. But I don't know. I mean, when's kickoff? 4:30. So you've got 7.5 hours till kickoff. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to predict. I honestly think at the moment it's 50-50 whether the game against Liverpool will go ahead today. Do I want it to go ahead? I don't know. We're going to have to play Liverpool at some point, aren't we? I mean, we are in our absolute worst moment at the moment. So, yeah, I don't know. Do I want it to go ahead? I mean, I would like the game to go ahead. I'm not going to sit here and say I'll cancel the game because, if they cancel the game, it's not like we're going to get a point and they're going to get a point. The game will just get replayed probably in the middle of a week sometime, and it will mean that another time will be really congested. Whereas if it didn't go ahead, it would effectively mean that our team would have 2 whole weeks of training. They had last week, they'll have all of this week, and then our next game's against Arsenal, isn't it? I think is it on Saturday or Sunday in the FA Cup? So from an actual team perspective, the game not going ahead probably would be the best thing because it would mean that our team can properly train. We can start to hopefully implement some of Ruben Amorim's ideas, because before now, Ruben Amorim reportedly had only held 4 training sessions in the space of about 10 weeks because of the amount of games we'd had. Whereas this week, apparently, we've had 2 or 3 training sessions. So, yeah, it's something to do with if a player plays in a game, they can't then train for 3 days. And obviously, most of our games are every 3 days. So, yeah, let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Let's have a little look. People are saying, do you think it will be postponed? At the moment, it's 50-50. As I said, they're meeting at 9 a.m. this morning. So literally in 7 minutes to decide whether it will go ahead or not. I think it will probably be called off. If I had to guess, if you were putting a gun to my head and said you have to pick, I would say it will probably be called off because I think the safety concerns around getting people to the ground will far outweigh the need of playing a football match. The players can get there. The pitch will be fine. None of that's the issue. Okay? The main issue is, can people safely get to this stadium? Can people safely, get out of this stadium? Can they get home? Is there enough trains on? Have the trains been cancelled? Those are the things they'll be discussing. So it's not so much about whether, the players can play football on the pitch, because they can. That's not the question. So yeah, but obviously I'll let you know as soon as I know. But at the moment, At the moment, it's 50-50. They're meeting in about 10 minutes' time. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But let's move on from that, though. This is turning into the Weather Channel, isn't it? So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Nuno Mendes, because there's a new story linking Nuno Mendes to Manchester United, kind of similar to the Joshua Zirkzee story we reported earlier. And the headline this morning is that Nuno Mendes is now ready to join Manchester United. It says his girlfriend lives in Portugal, but Mendes wants her to join him in Manchester, and she is already thinking about packing her bags. Wow. Some of these stories that come out from journalists are just, they love to add a little bit of glamour to the story, don't they? That, you know, Nuno Mendes' girlfriend is already packing her bags ahead of moving to Manchester United. Do you think she knows about this, or do you think this is just a journalist who's woken up this morning and said, you know what, let's put out a story that Nuno Mendes' girlfriend is already deciding what socks she wants to bring for when she moves to Manchester? I don't know. Strange. But yeah, I mean, the Nuno Mendes story doesn't seem to be going away. Do I think we'll sign him in January? I think it all depends, really. I think at the moment, the priority is getting rid of Rashford and Joshua Zirkzee, it seems like. So I think if we manage to get rid of those two players, then obviously that will allow us to spend some money, and it might then be that Osimhen and Nuno Mendes comes in. I think Manchester United's transfer window is going to go two ways. It will either be nothing happens, Rashford stays, Zirkzee stays, Casemiro stays, or a couple of these players will start leaving, the domino will fall, and then lots and lots of business will happen. That's how it is. You know, I don't think there's going to be a middle ground. I don't think it will be like, oh, we might sign one or two players. Like, I think it will have to be either a massive window or nothing will happen at all, because the reports that come out continue to tell us that Ineos have no money, and that the only way that Man United will spend this window is if we sell players. Now, is that true or not? Do we have no money? I don't know. But that's what they're telling the media. You know, it's sell to buy, sell to buy, sell to buy. So, yeah. I would like to see Nuno Mendes come to Manchester United, though. So, hopefully that does happen. So we got a Newcastle fan in the chat this morning who was saying, Newcastle fan here in peace, think some of the criticism of your players is fair, but also having seen the impact of Mike Ashley and mismanagement on players now doing well, I think it needs top-down change. I mean, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because obviously Newcastle do still have some of the same players that were there under Mike Ashley who were like close to relegation. And as you said, like under different top-down management, they have improved. So, yeah, I mean, it is something to think about. I think the biggest thing for Manchester United fans, though, are that there's a core group of players who have thrown managers under the bus countless times. And we can't just keep blaming the Glazers for that. You know, we can't just keep blaming the Glazers for players downing tools. We can blame the Glazers. We can blame the Glazers for recruiting the wrong types of players. But I don't think we can continually blame the Glazers for, you know, players throwing managers under the bus. Like, so I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with you, but at the same time, I don't really see how we're going to have change from the top to the bottom, because, you know, the Glazers are clearly going nowhere, Ineos are clearly going nowhere, so we're kind of stuck with what we've got now, you know. And it might just end up being that no matter who we sign, they're going to come in and they'll be turned into worse players. You know, that is a possibility. What else have we got here then? Eric says we should sign Osimhen in January, Gyökeres in the summer, then we should sign someone to replace Bruno in the near future. Left wing back is compulsory in January. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you got Osimhen and Gyökeres as your two strikers. That would be absolutely phenomenal, wouldn't it? I don't think that will personally happen. Ruben says, Kieran, do you think that Ruben Amorim will change his formation? No, I don't think he will. I would be honestly stunned if Ruben Amorim changes his formation, because he said recently that as soon as a manager changes their philosophy and their tactics, that's when their job's on the line. And I kind of agree in some ways, because if Ruben Amorim suddenly goes to a back four, even though he's never played a back four, and we continue to lose, I think people will be like, why have we got this guy? Get rid of him. I honestly think that will happen, because the whole reason that people are excited about Ruben Amorim is because he presents something new ideas. He wants to bring in new players, new tactics, new formation, and I think that's exciting. If we wanted to play a back four, you may as well have kept Erik ten Hag, get Graham Southgate, Gareth Southgate. Like, I'm not saying I wanted those managers, but There are far better managers out there at playing a 4-3-3 than Ruben Amorim. You know, that's a fact. Ruben Amorim doesn't even play a 4-3-3. He plays a 3-4-3 or whatever, you know? So I think as soon as he changes his formation, I think his stock price just falls down. And I think the Man United fans, I'm not saying that I'll immediately be saying sack him. I'm just saying if he changes to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 and then we still continue to lose, people will be like, well, shouldn't we just bring a manager in who actually can play this formation and not somebody who's learning to play this formation? So, yeah, I don't think he will change, to be completely honest with you. People say that Erik ten Hag changed his kind of style, but he still played the same formation, Erik ten Hag. He just changed his kind of in-game management. So instead of playing, 70-80% possession like he did at Ajax, he just turned to counter-attack. So, yeah, I mean, it might be that Ruben Amorim, says to the players, park the bus for a bit. But I don't think he'll change his formation because that's like your formation is something that you hold on to for your whole manager career. So, yeah, I would be honestly stunned if Ruben Amorim suddenly decides to start changing his formation. But you never know. You never know. I would be very disappointed if he did, but it can happen. Maybe it will. But for me, it's a definite no. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. We should be getting some news any minute about whether the game's been cancelled or not. But as soon as I get the news, obviously I will bring it to you. I personally think it will be cancelled, but we'll wait and see. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will speak to you later, and have a great day. Don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all later. Mm-hmm.